Welcome back to In the Kitchen with Jersey Joe. Today we are going to go over how to make homemade, authentic, okay? We're talking truly authentic here, but it's chicken Alfredo, Italian from New Jersey style. This is a homemade Alfredo sauce that I make. Do not buy the jarred Alfredo sauce. They're horrible. They are not authentic. They do not taste right. Follow these steps to make this Alfredo sauce, and you can use it on just about anything. It doesn't have to be chicken Alfredo, it could be shrimp Alfredo, or just when you want an Alfredo sauce to dip fresh bread in. This is what you're going to want to make. It's a very simple recipe. You're going to need 16 ounces of heavy cream. You're going to need 1 tablespoon of garlic powder. You're going to need 1 tablespoon of Italian seasoning, a half a teaspoon here of thyme. Thyme gives it that old-fashioned thyme Italian taste. Garlic, or excuse me, this is truffle salt here. This is my favorite salt. Whenever a recipe calls for salt, I like to put that infused truffle in it. I get this on Amazon. You can get it imported from Italy through Amazon, and this truffle infused salt is just some of the best tasting and smelling salt there is out there. Highly recommend it. Half a teaspoon of pepper, and we're doing about a half a teaspoon of chopped garlic, or 2 garlic cloves, medium size, chopped up yourself, however you want to do it. Obviously, because we got the cooking show here, I prepped all this stuff in advance. Now, you're also going to need 4 ounces of regular cream cheese. That's one of the secrets. You're going to need 1 stick of butter. All right. And then obviously about 8 ounces here of shredded Parmesan cheese. They're 6-ounce packages, so what I did was I put 6 ounces here. I'll probably steal a little bit more of the Parmesan cheese for the topping when I'm actually making the Alfredo. The recipe does call for 8 ounces. You can use 6 ounces, one package. You don't have to have that much. If you like it cheesier, you want to go with 8 ounces instead of 6 ounces, but that's totally up to you. And then what we're going to use here for our chicken, we got boneless, skinless thighs. Thighs are going to be the best tasting cut of the chicken. They hold the flavor. It cooks better. I just love it. I don't like it when it gets dry using the breast, so I always use the thighs. We're going to cut these thighs into strips. We're going to pan fry them, and we're going to put them to the side. Now, the last ingredient here is I make my own bacon bits. So I like to put bacon bits on the top of the crust along with the cheese so it melts down when I bake it. So I make my own bacon bits here. When you go into the grocery store, you can find ends and pieces that are already packaged, and you just simply take the package away and you kind of chop it up and then you pan fry it. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to go ahead and pan fry this, get the bacon bits ready. I have some water on the stove that I'm going to go ahead and use for my noodle. You can use in this dish, you can use an Alfredo. For the Alfredo dish, you can use like a linguine noodle. You can use angel hair pasta, or you can use a thick, like rigatoni. I like to use ziti. I just like the ziti noodle. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and use. And I got some butter that goes in after I make them. I'll show you that when we get to that point. And then Parmesan cheese to top it with the bacon bits. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on preparing to cut this bacon down to make some bacon bits. Obviously, I'm not going to use this whole big package. This is 1.5 pounds. I'm not going to use 1.5 pounds in the recipe. But what I will do is I will have extra bacon bits when we go. So the first thing I'll do is I'll get this cast iron nice and hot for us. Go ahead and prepare to get rid of the smoke. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to chop up this bacon very simply here. We're just going to simply go in and just chop it like this. Because when we do our bacon bits in that pan there, they're going to shrivel up for us. This doesn't have to be anything perfect here. Just get nice, clean, about quarter-inch cuts there, long ways. And then we'll just drop them in that hot cast iron pan. We'll drain the grease away. After we drain the grease away, we'll set them to the side, and then we're going to get started cutting the chicken into strips. We're going to fry the chicken in the bacon oil. That's going to give us another level of flavor there. So we'll just go ahead and do this. We'll get back to you when we're ready to fry here. Okay, let's get our bacon in here. Secret, ground pepper. Peppered bacon just brings it to that next level. So we're going to go ahead and crank in some pepper. We're now going to go ahead and we're going to salt our water for our noodle. You got to boil noodles in salt water. Regular water is just not going to do it. You need to have that salt. You don't have to worry about over salting. The water is only going to take so much salt, but I gave it about 10 cranks or so on the grinder here. That's regular sea salt. We'll get this fired up. We'll let that go. Our bacon bits are frying up nicely. See, that's why I buy those ends and pieces, because I don't need I'm obviously not going to waste the extra money on the nice cuts when I'm going to cut it up anyway. So buying those ends and pieces, it's cheaper and it serves the purpose that I want to serve here. All right, so now let's go ahead and cut up some of this chicken. So again, these are just regular boneless, skinless thighs. It's a medium-sized package. They're small. They're not humongous. So, we're using 8 pieces here. If they were larger size, you'd probably want to use 6 pieces. I like to clean them up a little bit, get some of the skin that's still left on it off. So I'll go ahead and I'll just go ahead and clean them a little bit before I start slicing them up. And then basically all I'm going to do is just cut them into what we're calling slivers here. And go ahead and put them in a pile up there. And they'll go right into the pan. You can have a little bit of skin on there, but totally up to you on how much skin you want to have on there. Make sure you got a sharp knife, and as always, be careful with your knife. Keep your blade away from you. Always cut away from your body. So what I want to do, I want to move these bacon bits over to the side of the pot because they're still cooking. I want them crispy. But to save time, I'm going to go ahead and start cooking this chicken with the bacon bits still in here that are still cooking. I'll take them out as they get brown, and I'll go ahead and put them into a spare container. So I just put a little tray here, some paper towels in it. Grab my chicken pieces and start to put them in here, pulling them apart. Oh, this smells tasty. See, we're frying the chicken in the bacon grease. Takes it to a whole nother level on that taste profile. That flavor profile is unreal when you do it this way. You don't want to overload it. Now, are you going to get pieces of bacon mixed in with the chicken? Yes. Is it going to make a difference? No, because we're putting the bacon in there anyway. I just don't want burnt bacon bits, so that's why I'm going to make sure I take the bulk of the bacon out when it's done. We're going to bake this dish when we're finished putting it together. So you don't have to worry about burning the chicken and, overcooking the chicken, because the chicken's going to bake and finish in the oven. So I'm really just kind of like just getting a nice color on the chicken. We'll say we're cooking it 3/4 of the way. So if you look at some of these bacon bits now, these on the bottom here look like they're going to be done soon. So I'm just going to keep turning them around here. And I'm going to start taking this bacon out real soon. You gotta keep paying attention here. When you get this chicken in here and you're almost done on your bacon, you got to really pay attention to it, because it will, overcook. And you don't want overcooked chicken and really hard burnt bacon bits. So you got to really pay attention to it and just keep it moving as you go. We had a conversation the other day after our Bible study about food and the crucial way that food played a role in the Bible. I believe that food is biblical. Everything we do is centered around food when you think about it. When you look at the Bible and you look at, all the references, I believe food's mentioned over 100 times in the Bible, some type of food or drink. It's truly biblical. You look at the Last Supper, right? I mean, Jesus preached, said he was going to be crucified and that he would rise from the dead. And they had this supper and they surrounded it around food. And, Jesus spoke of, this being the bread being his body, and, the wine or the fruit of the vine being his blood. And he said, do this in remembrance of me. And, that to me makes it biblical. That's why before every meal, you should always make sure you give thanks for the food that you have. But remember that it's meaning behind it. It's nourishment for your body, but it's also nourishment for your soul. And, you're remembering Jesus before you partake. I mean, when he said, do this in remembrance of me, meaning pray, and you take the meal, you take the bread, you eat the bread, then you drink the wine, and you're doing that in remembrance of him, in remembrance of the Last Supper, in remembrance of what Jesus did for you, for all of us. I think it's an amazing thing. And to combine that with good cooking and good food, it's just an amazing thing. I mean, you invite some people over, you put together a good meal like this, and what do? You pray before the meal, and then after the meal, well, then you can have a Bible study and you can talk about the Bible, talk about Jesus, talk about what Jesus did for us. It's a great thing. And again, it all goes back to, that's why I say it's biblical, because, it truly is. What he's done for us, I just, it blows my mind every time I think about it. And for anyone who's out there who's saying, oh, I don't believe science explains it all. You've heard me talk about this before and preach before, where I've said, yeah, science answers a lot from, a biological standpoint. Science can definitely answer how things work. I've yet to see anybody make me a chicken to give this chicken, or make me a cow, or excuse me, make me a pig that can make, so I can have bacon. See, these scientists will tell you, oh, there's an answer for everything. This is life's answer. Well, that's great. You can tell me how something, I can take a car and I can take it apart and I can say, well, this is how it works. Does that make me a genius? Does that make me the designer of the car? No, not at all. Because all I did was look at it, take it apart, and say, oh, well, this is how it works. So this is the answer. But someone else built that car. Okay? I didn't build that car. You look at this chicken. How did this chicken come from science? How did this chicken come out of salt water or come from the big boom, as they say? You know, it's impossible when you think about it in that way. It has to be created by something greater because we can't reproduce it. We can try all we want to sit here and say, oh, I know the answers, it's fine. No, you don't know the answer. You will never know how to make a chicken, make an egg. It's God created all of this for us. And he did it in such a way that everything works together and everything has a purpose. You know, it's an amazing thing when you think about it. And to me, it's simple. I don't know how any non-believer can sit there and say that, oh, well, it just happened. Well, what do you mean it just happened? Well, there was an explosion. The earth was created and man evolved from salt water. Give me a break, man evolved from salt water. So you're telling me that my ancestors walked out of salt water billions of years ago or whatever it's been? Nah, not buying it. Not buying it at all. Makes absolutely no sense. Look at how perfect our ecosystem works. There's bees that make honey. There's flies that fly around and eat things that are decomposing. They come from larvae, and then the fly is made, right? Everything has a purpose. The flies are food for spiders. The other bugs are food for other animals out there. You know, my chickens eat flies and spiders and worms, and then they give me eggs, and I eat the eggs. If I incubate the eggs, I got more chickens. You tell me that came from salt water? Nah, you're crazy. But anyway, as I've been talking here, I've moved my bacon off of the pan. I've added more chicken, and I'm just going to continue to fry up this chicken. I'm now going to start scraping the bottom of the pan here. Make sure I get all this good flavor off of the bottom of the pan. And just keep cooking this chicken. That 1.5 pounds of bacon really shrinks up once you get the fat out of it. Because really, that's what you're doing. When you fry bacon, you're frying the fat out of it. But that fat is flavor, so we're going to cook in that. And that's just going to give us a whole nother flavor on our chicken here. Just got to be careful not to get your flame too hot. Because if you get this too hot, too aggressive, it could jump out. Not only make a mess, but could start a fire. So you want to make sure you're very careful, very slow. Take your time. Medium heat. Don't try to rush it. That should be done very shortly. I'm going to take a look at my water here, see if we're ready. The water's boiling. We're going to go ahead and add our ziti noodles. Got our ziti in there now. And we are moving along, people. We got our bacon bits done, and we got our chicken done. And we're going to let them set to the side. Because now we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on our Alfredo, which is the most important part to this dish. Now, as I said earlier, I make a shrimp Alfredo, which is basically the same thing as chicken Alfredo, but you're using shrimp instead of chicken. So if you got people that don't like chicken, I feel sorry for them. But if they don't like chicken, you can do it with shrimp. Sort of the same thing. You're going to lightly cook the shrimp. You're not going to overcook the shrimp because you're going to be baking it. So you just want to put just a little heat to the shrimp just to wake it up, pull the tails off, and then you're going to go ahead and mix that in with your Alfredo when your Alfredo's done. Maybe one day I'll make that dish and we'll record it, and you can see how to do that. But it's fairly simple. But this is a universal sauce here, so we're going to get started on it. What we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and we're going to get our butter and our garlic going, and that'll just heat up the garlic a little bit, start to cook the garlic a little bit, and then we'll start to add our cream and our seasonings and our cream cheese, melt it down, get it going, then we'll add the cheese in the last. So I like to do it in a nice casserole or not casserole, cast iron. You want to use cast iron when you're making any kind of roux or any kind of sauce. It holds the heat better, distributes the heat better. So we're going to go ahead and get this hot and get ready to cook here. You want to have yourself a nice whisk. Whisk. Interesting name, whisk. I hope your wrist is ready for this because there's a lot of whisking. You got to have constant movement when you start this dish because it will burn. And in order to blend it correctly, your constant movement here. So let's get started. Let's get this stick of butter in the pot. Get our garlic in there. Garlic's always stubborn to get out. Doesn't want to get in that pot. Italian seasoning. I'm going to put it on top of the butter so it doesn't burn on the pan. Garlic powder. Salt. It's that truffle salt that I was telling you about. It's unbelievably awesome. Time after time. Pepper. Let's mix some of this up. I don't want to add anything else until I get all this mixed in real good and that butter completely melted. Then the next to go in will be the cream cheese. Try to keep it off the sides because it will burn on the sides. If you have to use a rubber spoon to do that, by all means, rubber spoon. Let's get our cream cheese in here. Cream cheese is in. Get that cream cheese mixed around there. Let it get hot on the bottom. Constant movement so I don't get no burns. I'm going to go ahead and turn this heat down some. If you get a little bit of burning on the bottom of the pan, that's fine. Just try not to pick it all up into your roux because then you'll get brown marks in your roux. I'm going to go ahead and add the cream now. And I'm just going to keep mixing. Take my rubber spoon, get all that cream. And just keep mixing. Get them all mixed together. Get that cream cheese melted down. All right. Now we can start adding some of our cheese, Parmesan there. Might as well just add it all. That's 6 ounces. Like I say, it does call for 8. I said that earlier, so I am going to add more cheese from the other package. Once I get this, go ahead and blend it up good. And as it starts to thicken, I'll turn the burner down some. That's why we're using cast iron, because it really holds the heat well. And I can really control what's going on here. We're starting to get thick here as that cheese starts to blend. So I'm going to add some more. We've got another 2 ounces. Look at this. Now that is what we're looking for. That is Alfredo beyond all Alfredo sauces. So I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to keep stirring because remember, cast iron is going to hold that heat. So it will still be bubbling and cooking while we're doing this. All right, so once you strain the water out, go ahead and put the noodles back in the pot. Bring the pot over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a stick of butter to the noodles. That's going to take the place of any oil that folks thought you can put in water. You butter the noodles after they come out, and then you slowly melt that butter down in your pot. All right. So while that butter is melting down, what I then do is I'm going to take my chicken now and put my chicken in with the noodles. And then continue to mix around. But I'm trying to fold. I'm really not mixing because I don't want to destroy the noodles too much. You're going to get broken noodles. It all just depends on the quality of your macaroni. But I'm just going to keep mixing them around so I get that chicken well incorporated in there. Make sure that butter is completely gone before you move on to the next step. And I'm looking in here and I don't see it. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and take some of this and coat the bottom of the pan or vessel here that you're baking in. All right. Make sure you have enough to cover back up on top because we're going to layer this. All right. Get yourself a smaller rubber spoon, little itty bitty one. See, little itty bitty baby one. Mix up your Alfredo. And then now we're just going to go ahead and drizzle. Just doing strips like this. I want to make sure I get a thin layer on there, but I have enough left over for the top layer, which looks good. So that's looking good. Set that aside. Bacon bits, homemade. All right, get them in there. It's all about layering on this. Some more of that Parmesan cheese, little sprinkle, 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 sprinkle. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. All right, at this point, I'm going to preheat my oven now. I'm going to bring it up to 350 degrees, and I'm going to use speed bake convection. You don't have to. You can use regular bake. That's fine. Might just take a little longer. It's going to bake for about 35 to 45 minutes. You want the brown to be, or you want the top to be brown and bubbly. That's how you know you're good. So now we'll continue the process. We'll now get some more out of here and dump it right in the middle. Same thing that we just did. It just smells like an Italian kitchen in here. You smell the garlic, the cheese. It just smells amazing. All right. More bacon bits. And lastly, we'll top it off with the rest of the Parmesan. And there you have it, folks. We're going to bake this off in the oven for, like I said, about 35-40 minutes. And we'll be back at you when it's finished. Take care now. All right, folks, welcome back. It's been about 45 minutes now. We're going to go ahead and pull this out of the oven. Ah, look at that. There you have it. Homemade Jersey Joe style chicken Alfredo. You look at how that top is nice and crispy. Everything's melted in there and melded well together. The Alfredo's gone through everything there, so this is going to be absolutely delish. Remember, say a prayer before every meal, thanking the Almighty for the things that He gives you, because it's a lot. Keep the faith, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, as well as follow us on Facebook at Jersey Joe Congemi.